Hello guys, welcome back to the video. Today, as you can see, we got a proper air cleaner on the 390. But today's a huge update video. I have a lot to tell you guys. So I haven't posted in a long time, as you guys know. There's lots happened since I last posted, so I got a lot of stories today. Alright, so first off, I think I mentioned before in one of my other videos that I wanted a bigger carburetor than a 600 CFM Holley like I had before. It showed on the dyno that it wanted more CFM, at least top end for top end horsepower. And so I found this on Facebook Marketplace. This is a 800 CFM Holley double pumper. It is a beast of a carburetor, that's for sure. I believe this to be a 1974 unit, so it's actually pretty old, and it's got a lot of wear and tear on it. And I got a really good deal on Facebook Marketplace for it. It was like you see it here, but it did not work. So to start with, I took it home, I took it all apart, cleaned it, and I put new gaskets on it, and I put it back together. Really just hoping that was all I have to do, and that it would just work. Well, I was definitely wrong. It just flooded like crazy. And it wasn't because my needle and seats were set wrong, because I encountered that on my other Holley. I have my needle and seats set right. Floats weren't, the float height wasn't too high or too low. So anyway, I played around with this for a very long time. Eventually, I just really couldn't figure it out. So I did a lot of research. I discovered that you should file the sides of the block, so I did. And there was a lot of warpage on the side of the main block there. So I filed it all down flat on both sides, and I did a little bit on the bottom too, but that didn't really need it. It was pretty flat already. Then I was like, well, maybe we got a vacuum leak. That's got to be really our last thing. So one thing I noticed when I first got the carburetor was how much play was in the throttle shaft. There was a lot of play. Now there's none. So anyway, I found a bushing kit online. It's got a little drill thing. I'll show it to you guys here in a second. It's really awesome, and if you need to rebush your throttle shafts on a Holley carburetor, I highly recommend that kit. It's on eBay. It's like 40 bucks. It's really nice. This here is the drill bit that you use to drill out the block, or to drill out the plate and put in new bushings. So basically, you'll put this in, you take the throttle shaft out, you'll put it in through the two holes there and put your chuck or your drill on the sharp end of the drill bit. So you'll drill it out and you'll tap these little bushings in, little bronze bushings. So it's pretty cool. So basically we drilled that out, put new bushings in, one on this side and one on the other side. One of the main reasons I discovered that I needed to rebush the Holley, or the throttle shaft, at least to prove my point, I was like, well, if there is a vacuum leak there, I could just seal it off and then it would work, right? So I shoot a couple pieces of bubble gum, and I put bubble gum around the throttle shaft. And then, of course, after like 12 times taking this thing apart, trying to figure everything out, that bubble gum fixed it. So I was like, well, that's what we gotta do then. So we rebushed the throttle shaft, and now it works great. We had 800 CFM double pumper on this thing. I would fire it up for you, but currently I'm in the middle of push rods, which I'll talk to you guys about here in a second. This carburetor runs great. Give it a little bit of a pump to start with, and it fires right up, and the idle's just awesome. I have a vacuum gauge hooked up to it and everything, but it's just an outstanding carburetor. Alright, well I think that's everything with the carburetor. On the dyno, about between 4,000 and 5,000 RPM, my old distributor cut out. If you remember, it was a blue GM HEI distributor that I got for like 150 bucks on Jegs.com. It was mainly to get the job done at the time, and I planned on using it forever. I really didn't plan on getting a new one. Until it kind of cut out on the dyno, I kind of disappointed in that it didn't have quite enough power. I was like, maybe I could get a new coil for it, right? But a new coil cap, but I don't know. So then, one of my guys, I follow an FE forum online on Facebook, and it's one of those guys said that one of the distributor gears on those HEI distributors had eaten the camshaft, his stock camshaft, because the cam gear is harder than the camshaft. And that really was like, oh no, I really don't want that. And a couple months ago, I'd read about these distributors right here, progression ignition distributors. And I was like, well, if I'm gonna get a new distributor, I want to go all the way. And so I did a bunch of research into it and asked a couple guys around about it. And anyway, I ended up getting a progression ignition distributor for this thing. It is a fantastic distributor. And then I also got a Petronix flamethrower coil to go with it. So this thing has plenty of ignition power all the way up to probably like 10 grand if you wanted to spin it that high. But anyway, this is probably the coolest distributor I've ever seen. So you can do ignition lock, it Bluetooths to your phone, and you can change the timing at any RPM under any vacuum load. So it's an infinite, almost infinitely variable distributor, but you have to tune it. It was super easy to install. It was so easy that I was like, this is just insane. Basically, you take your old distributor out, you get it to top dead center, or 10 degrees before top dead center on your compression stroke on cylinder number 1, and you stab it in, and that was it. Plugged all my pre-existing wires in, because thankfully they wanted spiral core wire. That's what I already had, so I was like, okay, that works for me. There's one hot wire that goes to the coil, and we already had that from other distributors, so we just basically plugged that in, plugged our tack into the distributor, and it fired right up. That was literally all we had to do. It was so easy, and it works so good. There was no, we didn't have to try and time it with moving the distributor. Just did it all on my phone, which is pretty awesome. And I like that you can really tune it. You can maximize your tuning without having to recurve the distributor, because I don't know how to recurve a distributor. Alright, so that's the distributor and the carburetor. Now the third thing that I've been doing with this thing is working on the valve train. Alright, so on the valve train. Well, so I've always had one ticking lifter or something ticking right around here. And that probably is the fuel pump. Maybe it's not, I don't know. It's the original fuel pump. It's really old, but it still works, so I keep using it. But anyway, the valve train noise never went away. Not even when it got warm, not even when the oil pressure was dropping or nothing. It just kind of always was kind of ticky. Anyway, long story short, a hydraulic lifter can take about 40 thousandths of preload on it. We had about 90 thousandths of preload on it, and I'll put a link in the description of this video on how to measure your preload in an FE. The guy did a really great video on it, and it's very informative if you want to try and figure out how much lifter preload you have on your FE. Because an FE it doesn't have adjustable rocker shafts, so you just kind of bolt it on and hope for the best. I ordered 30 thousandths shorter push rods, so we're going to put those in, and really, I really hope that fixes a lot of our preload problems. I hope it can probably make more power, and I don't have to worry so much about breaking these push rods, because one thing I never liked about it, when we bolted it on, you could not budge anything. You couldn't make, there's no lash, nothing. It was just super tight all the way around. And I didn't really like that, because I worked at a machine shop where we built sprint car motors, and I felt there was lash on each rocker, even whenever it was put together. And I just didn't like that this was so tight everywhere. I mean, it ran, but these must be some pretty good push rods, because they took quite a bit of abuse. Anyway, once I get my new push rods installed, I'll make a video about that, and I'll make a video of it running with it. Hopefully that fixes my problem. Hopefully that makes it so there's not as much lifter clatter, and hopefully that the lifters can actually pump up and fill with fluid, because they weren't bottomed out on the plunger, which is probably what they were doing before. As you can see there, that's how much preload we had on the, there we go. So you can see the top line is with the rocker shaft just loose on top of it, not torqued down, and then we torqued it down, and that's how much the push rod went into the plunger, and that's a lot. So that's about 30 thousandths too much. I was trying to find them all over the place online. But it's just really hard to find 30,000s under push rods. So I went to my local auto parts store and I just bought them there. They had 30,000 shorter push rods. So we had 9.59 push rods, which is what these are, and I bought some 9.56s. So that's what the guy at the YouTube video recommended. I really say Black Lab Garage. Go check him out on YouTube. He's really good. I'll put a link in the description below. But I could not have done this without him. I really appreciate that. Oh, I almost forgot. So in the process of me changing my distributor out, I wanted to correct my oil pump drive shaft mistake. So whenever we first put this thing together, I didn't realize it, but you're supposed to install your oil pump drive shaft from the bottom on an FE, or any engine maybe, I don't know. Anyway, on an FE you have to install it from the bottom. I installed it from the top. We took the ring off. We were very precise. We basically didn't want to drop the oil pan again because I didn't have another gasket when we first put it together. It still worked. It worked fine. It always bothered me though that the oil pump drive shaft was not placed right, and if we ever to pull the distributor out, the oil pump drive shaft would probably just fall out. But anyway, I dropped the oil pan. I painted it gold because that'd be pretty cool, and then I installed an ARP oil pump drive shaft. So it is installed the correct way. So now anytime I ever change the distributor out again, it'll still stay where it needs to stay and not go anywhere and not fall in the oil pan. Everything's good and right with the bottom end now. And it's got a pretty oil pan. Anyway guys, that'll be it for this engine. I want to show you guys what we're doing on the car. Onto the car. So I would say in another couple weeks, we should have the rear axle and other wheels back on the bottom here. As you can see, we got leaf spring on here right now. Dad got the whole big terrible rust spot, or non-existent frame rail and everything cut out here, and he's working on fabricating the new pieces of it. This is one piece. So, and then this is the AMD frame rail. So we'll be putting that on there, just like the other side. So this should be pretty sturdy and strong. But as you can see before, it wasn't really. That was mostly just holes and rust and, not good at all. So once that's fixed, we'll be able to put the other leaf spring on and put the axle in, and all kinds of good stuff can happen. Yesterday, I put this together. Here I put the spindle and dust shield and everything together. Hopefully later today I can get the other brake caliper on. That'd be pretty awesome if I could do that. It spins nice. That was the first time I put together a hub like that and I had to grease the bearings and a lot of cool stuff. So we also got this put together with help from my friend Wyatt. We got this side put together, the A-arm and the leaf spring, or the coil spring, and we got it all put together. It's probably a couple weeks ago now, it feels like. Me and my dad and my grandpa, we put together this power steering valve, and then we got everything else put back together for the steering rack, so it steers again now. Yesterday I also got the brake lines ran, my new brake lines I ordered from Inline Tube. Pre-bent brake lines, seem really well made, they fit really good, so I highly recommend that if you're looking for pre-bent brake lines that are already flared and everything. Actually it's pretty affordable. It's like $275 for all the brake lines and the fuel line for the Torino. So you honestly really can't beat that, I don't think. Anyway, we got that all ran. I have my proportioning valve to put on because I'm going from drum in the back to disc in the back. You have to make sure you get a disc to disc proportioning valve because this car originally was not that. So once we get the caliper on, it'll look like this on the other side. So at this side we got a brake soft line. The brake lines on the passenger side are pretty much done for the front. The driver's side still got to put the caliper on. And unfortunately, the engine's got to go in this thing before we can put the master cylinder on, because the master cylinder and the brake booster stick out over the valve cover. So we'll have to run all our brake lines, get the proportioning valve put in, and then put the engine in, basically. So I was originally hoping not to have to get floor pans in this car, but that is kind of not what's going to happen. I'm going to get a floor pan, AMD floor pan. The plan right now is to leave the transmission tunnel and just cut out the bad and then cut the floor pan to fit what we need to fit. Like this section, obviously. This is terrible. I mean, that's just Swiss cheese. I thought the floors were actually good. I filled up a whole trash can with the amount of... that whole trash can right here was full of sound deadening material and carpet that was in there. So that's why it felt like the floors were fine, because there was so much stuff on top of it. But the floors are not fine. I mean, they'll work, but they have it's Swiss cheese, and it's really bad right there. And that's a lot of daylight. As you can see, that's already been patched once. So that, this area right here has been patched once already. So it's pretty bad. So we'll get that fixed. For whatever reason, this is totally fine back here, which I'm really glad of, actually. Alright guys, well I definitely will make a video when I get these push rods installed and show you guys like the rev limiter and how this app works. Show you guys a little more on the progression ignition side. Once I get my push rods, I got a couple brake line fittings for the rear. Because I still got the stock drum brake lines that are already bent, so we're going to try and make those work for the rear axle. But anyway guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Once again, sorry for the delay in this, so I've been super busy. I really don't have an excuse. Alright guys, make sure you stay tuned though for that push rod video. Really hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you next time on It'll Run, where hopefully that car will run. Well, it kind of does run, but hopefully that car will drive.